Good morning. This is Phil here, Jolly Bison Junk Removal. I wanted to do a quick video on something that I'm not seeing a lot of people in the junk removal community covering. But, they might mention it here and there, but it's not, like, I've not seen a full video on this, and it's something that I've been spending a lot of time on in my career. It's where most of my personal professional career is based in, and that's customer service. You may not always know, if you're new in this business, new in junk removal, and really new in any kind of major profession, like, and as a trade, but you're going to make mistakes. You're going to make errors that cost you or the customer time or money, or fill in the blank. How do you navigate that without getting torn to shreds online? The best way to do that is to really focus on your customer service skill. Don't become defensive. If you get a bad review, don't jump on there and tell them why they're wrong, right? Like, no customer is going to see that public argument and think, oh, this guy's going to be great to work with, right? Or girl. The main thing you need to understand is to treat situations, right? Elevated situations when they arise with a sense of calm, with a sense of seeking first to understand. So I can give you an example, right? Let's say you get a junk removal quote, or you give a quote, and it's based off of pictures, or for some reason or another you couldn't be there on site. You give them that quote, and let's say it looks like it's a full load, $500 some odd. You get out there, underneath the pile, just like it always is, underneath the pile there's more stuff than what the customer thought or what you thought, and you're like, I'm so sorry to do this, but the estimate was just an estimate. Things do adjust over time based on what is found. I can see that you do actually have some electronics under here, some chemicals, fill in the blank. The cost will unfortunately need to go up. This can cause a lack of trust, a break in trust with your customers, which is why it's important to preface this as much as you can when you're giving estimates. But sometimes customers, even if they're told this, still just see the estimate as the final cost. So you need to treat this with kid gloves, right? You want to make sure you understand, let them get out what they need to get out. Some of the most common objections I get is, I only budgeted this much. This feels wrong. This feels like, this doesn't feel like what we discussed. Yada yada. The main thing you want to do is identify what emotion they're projecting. A lot of times it's stress, it's confusion, could be mistrust, it could be a lot of different things, but use those words in your response, right? First thing, a good response to something like that might be, absolutely, I know this sounds very concerning. Last thing you wanted to do is make you feel distrustful of this process. And the last thing also we wanted to do was we did not want to stress you out. Our goal is to make sure that we provide a stress-free, happy experience from start to finish. So I'm going to do everything I can to make sure I communicate better, to make sure that I explain in detail what's going on and what the next steps are, even if you have already, right? Like, even if you have already explained it, maybe you put it in your estimate in detail. You don't need to say, well, sir, ma'am, it's in the estimate. Estimates can change. It's just an estimate. Do you know what an estimate is? Like, you don't have to become defensive. In fact, the moment you become defensive, it's a you versus them. So the main thing you want to do, you don't have to say, oh, this is my screw up, I'm so sorry, never mind, I'll do it for the previous price. You can say what I had said previously, but you can also itemize things and say, hey, so here's how many hours we put in, here's what the approximate dump costs are going to be, Like, you can go down that route if you think it'll be helpful, but own up to the situation. Just do your best to make sure you build some trust with this customer, and then take the next steps. Now, there are going to be customers that you get that are really just trying to get something for nothing. Maybe they've done this before, right? They understand what they're doing, and they're trying to game the system a little bit. There are some barriers you do want to set there, but it is very situational. You have to fill those out. Like, as an example, I've been to houses that were full of mold. The customer knew it, but didn't really want to cop up to it, even when I mentioned they were mold. They're like, "Oh, you think that's mold?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's mold, and we're gonna have to suit up. We're gonna have to wear protective gear. We're gonna be in here for hours operating around it. So it's gonna cost more, right?" Like, they pretended like they didn't know, but they knew. They just wanted something for nothing. And for those situations, you can say, "You know what? One thing I'll never do is lie to you about my costs. I want to make sure that you are getting the correct estimate, honest estimate up front. Our goal is to not change our costs from when we provide you an estimate as much as possible. If anything, we may overestimate, so that when you get the bill and for some reason it's smaller, that you're delighted, right?" So I'd rather take jobs like that all day long than try and weasel my way in to someone who either can't afford it, doesn't understand it, is going to leave a nasty review, cost me future jobs, right? So, and just to go a little bit more in depth with the customer service approach, it's best to see the experience that you're having with the customer into two different columns: a logical column and an emotional column. When a customer calls you to say, "Hey, I had a family member who passed on. We got out the things that we wanted to keep, but there's a lot more stuff in there that needs to go that nobody in the family seems to want. We're trying to sell the house in a week or two, and we're collecting estimates, but we need something rather quick." So the best way to respond to that is first understand what the logical issue is. They're on a time crunch. They're maybe mourning, right? Like, for their recent passing, but also if anybody's been through an estate process, it is very time consuming. It is very stressful. But the logical problems are that they're on a time crunch. They need to get the house ready to go so it can be sold. They're trying to get quotes quickly, and yeah, they maybe also be dealing with other family members who are involved. Coordinating is the word I'm looking for. So on an emotional side, though, think about the emotions they're experiencing. Like I said earlier, they're mourning, right? They're stressed out. They may be confused because they've not gone through this before. So the main thing you want to do before you just jump right in is empathize a little, right? Toss a little empathy. And don't just say, "I'm so sorry to hear for your passing, so what we can do is," don't do that. Say, "Oh, you know what? This is something that we've handled many times before, and I am so sorry for your recent loss. Our goal is to make this process as easy as possible for you. We understand that this can be a very confusing time, and from a standpoint of getting things out of there may be things uncovered that you or someone in the family might want. Would you like us to make sure that we call those things out? We can send you pictures as we're working to make sure that you get everything out of the home that you really and truly will want." And they really like to hear that a lot of the times. They really like to hear that they have an advocate in the house who's going through the stuff that either they didn't have time to go through or forgot to go through, and will let them know what is found. Really helps people save time, and it really is. You can hear it on the phone. They sigh, "Oh yes, oh that would be so great." I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. It really makes you an advocate, and even if your quote's a little higher, they're going to trust you versus somebody who's trying to lowball and maybe be skeevy and steal stuff from from house, right? So you'll find that you get into a lot more jobs if you are positioning yourself as an advocate, as a friend, sometimes as a shoulder to lean on. But overall, it's just the right thing to do. We have enough people out there who are just out there to get money. I'm very lucky to live in the city of Buffalo, where people generally are just good humans, right? They care about each other, even if they don't know you. They'll pull over and help you if you're stuck in the snow. They'll mow your lawn for you. Like, they're just good people, and that's how I was raised, right? So it's very easy to do that here. But even if you're in an area where it's not as much like that, which other places I have lived, which I won't mention, it still helps, because is it refreshing when you're in an area where perhaps you're not in a city of good neighbors, and people are generally fairly grumpy, and you're not, right? You're not that grumpy, money grubbing person. Like, you actually genuinely care about someone's experience. Some of the best junk removal jobs I've had weren't always the ones I've made the most money on. They were the ones that I really felt like I made a difference in someone's life. And I know it sounds cheesy to say, but it's the God's honest truth. I really genuinely enjoy what I do, and this is, of course, starting out as a part-time thing for me, but I look to make this something I want to do full-time in the future. But you can make really good money in this business. People are saying that junk removal is a down business right now. And yeah, the phone's ringing a little less, sure, but the jobs I do get, they're worth my time. They're worth the customer's time. I do an excellent job. I check in along the way. That's another thing you can do from a customer service standpoint, is say, hey, here's where we are right now. We're thinking about getting this and this. How do you think we're doing? Right? It eliminates a lot of the surprise by the end of it. It really does. Our goal is to get nothing but perfect scores and earn them, right? So anyway, that's a little bit about customer service. I have a lot more little fun exercises and tricks that I've learned over the years, and I look forward to sharing some more with you all. But for now, have yourselves a great day. Stay jolly. Take it easy.